Matt, good to see you again.
Great seeing you again too.
Okay, Matt, today's topic is really kind of cool because it's a special topic, mainly for entrepreneurs and
Mhm.
mainly for business people. People that are related to entrepreneurship and creating a business.
Mhm.
Sometimes you are really worried about the competition, But today's question is, hey, what if you are the one creating your own competitors? What do you think about this topic, Matt?
I know I love it because it's what if is all about is as far as turning things on their head and seeing what we can find when we kind of shake things up a bit. And what better way to shake things up than to ask, what if you create your own competitor? And I like it because it's just crazy enough type of a question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In order to start this conversation, I will say first of all, we have to define what is a competitor.
Yep.
Before saying, "Hey, I'm launching a competitor." On the side, competition actually it's one of the most important things that you will find on the markets
Mhm.
because actually competition will push you to increase the level of your company,
Mhm.
will push you to optimize the cost of your product or service.
Mhm.
But most of all, competition it's part of the game, and I think it's the most amazing thing on the game actually, because
Mhm.
being on a game without competitors, actually at the end of the day it doesn't make a lot of sense, because
Mhm.
we'll be talking about monopoly. Yeah, and of course some people will argue, oh my god, I want to be the monopoly, I want to be the Google of whatever. Yeah, but it's not in the game, part of the game is being in a competition, and sometimes if you don't have it,
Mhm.
maybe you should think in just creating the competitor yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. And it's a great question because it's funny. One of the first things what you mentioned is we've got to understand what is a competitor, right? Like you have to fully understand it. And there's certainly more than one definition that we could come up with what a competitor is. But one of the things, and it's hard to get that single word, but I think it's easier to find out what a competitor does, right? And one of the things I was thinking that a competitor does it kind of it reveals your weaknesses in a lot of ways, and that's kind of what you're talking about is it pushes you forward and it helps innovation and move forward. But part of that is because if you're now it depends on your relationship with your competition. If you have a relationship with your competition that I hate them and it's kind of adversarial, and then you may never see your weaknesses, you may never understand. But if you have respect for your competition, right? If you even appreciate your competition, perhaps you can see, because if they're your competition, you're also serving the same customer more or less. Yeah. And if you're truly, say, a mission driven company where your goal is really to serve your customer, then you should be looking for new and better ways. And what if your competition, right? So, and then that's, we can, the discussion keeps going. But one of the things I want to encourage people who might be listening, and hopefully I'm looking forward to doing this in person sometime, is to actually walk people through this as a workshop without what we just shared there, right? Because it'd be very interesting to see what they put out, how they describe their company, how they actually launch this, and then let them know, like don't tell them why they're doing it, right? But just have them kind of go about it and then kind of have them reflect back, because I think sometimes that way they may be more honest or everything else. But I think I got a lot of ideas on how we could use this single question for learning experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the idea of all the process.
Mhm.
It's to be able to understand very clear what are your weaknesses, or actually sometimes we do have to understand what are our strengths, because sometimes we take for granted many things in our company. But if
Mhm.
we stop for a minute and we say, hey, let's start with this question. What if we create our own competitors? What if we
Mhm.
launch a competitor to ourselves? And because you have insights of your company, because you have insights of yourself, actually, you know how to compete with you. And,
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing you. If you think in your competitors in terms of respect, in terms of the possibility of having a conversation, you will say, hey, if with all the information and with all the insights that I have, what type of competitor, or even better, how do I design my
Yeah.
competitor in order that they can win? Once you think in that way, you will be you'll be in an explosion of ideas, because you'll be the one finding how to beat yourself. And if you know how to beat yourself, now you are being very honest to yourself in what areas of your company, of your personal life, or your division, and that you are working with, it can be improved. So
Yeah.
actually, it's a really powerful tool to think, hey, what if I launch my own competitor? Maybe it will be a new market, because in this area, I have a lot of I have a big gap in for some specific market segmentation, or in this area I have a weakness in terms of cost or design, or user-centered design, maybe. That's a good question just to ask, not to everybody in your team, not
Yeah.
just the people in operations, but as well the people in finance, in human resources, and sales, and of course yourself as an entrepreneur and as a business guy.
Yeah. And it might even be small things like, well, my competitor would bring fresh coffee and good donuts to work every day, right? And it's like, oh, wait a
Yeah.
second, I could do that. They're going to have happy employees, and they're going to have a strong social media campaign, and they're going to do this, and then you can go, wait a second, yeah, that would,
Yeah, I like it. If you take in a good way, and I think if you
yeah,
take this question in order to improve, it will be a happy question,
yeah,
because
it's a fun
you
one,
will have your team very happy.
yeah. And listening to you there also, I wrote down something. It made me think it doesn't just help you understand your weaknesses, but by what if you launch your competition? In some ways, it's something. It's similar to when you hear about like chess players, right? Like before they move, they're thinking like 2, 3, 4 moves ahead. And in
Yeah,
some ways, by launching your competition, it's letting you think not just defensively, right, but offensively. It's not only allowing you to see your weaknesses, it's also letting you look at potential opportunities, right? Because if you really do this seriously, like what you're describing, and you're kind of mapping out and planning out what your competition could be doing, you could see holes or weaknesses, and potential holes or weaknesses in what they may be doing that could help you. So it is, yeah, a lot you could gain out of this simple, like one question.
yeah. Other way to think, in terms of creating your competition, is when you have a company, or when you are in a business mode, and then you have many moving parts, or maybe you are serving different markets or different segments of the population, and you say, hey, let's create one specific uh, competitor, and I would say a small company, or just maybe a small venture, even with your own employees, and you say, hey, let's
Yeah.
try to create this area, or this new competitor to ourselves, because if we create this, we are growing the market.
Yeah,
And that's another way to think,
I like that.
and that is based on why it's important to have competition on the market, because the more competitor you have, actually you are getting a bigger market, and why? Because when many people when you have many companies or many entrepreneurs talking about one specific topic, the level of awareness that you are creating on the market, it gets bigger. So that's why it's important to have competitors. And this is, for example, a single experience and a single topic that you will see right now that is that has a lot of movement right now, and maybe it's a buzzword, it's influencers. If you are an influencer in Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, many platforms that we have now, it's really important to create your own competitors, because the level of awareness and how many people you will be able to reach, it will increase very fast in terms of how many competitors you have. If you are the only one talking about a specific topic, it's really hard to grow. Maybe if you are a guy that is in this area, maybe you are creating an influencer stuff, it's great if you have a friend that shares maybe your ideas, and you'll help them to create competition to you. And maybe that's a crazy way to think, but if you think in these terms, I think it's a good idea, Matt. What do you think?
No, I think actually, I think a lot about this, and I have for some time. So one of the 8 guiding questions for what if curiosity is, what if there is no zero sum, but collaborative competition, right? So this is something that, again, and it's a question, not a statement, because it's something that's just been in my mind for a while. And we try to explore, and it's, it goes back to like what you're saying here is that the competition can be healthy, right? It can be collaborative, to the point that you were just saying, that especially if you're in a new or an emerging market, having competition helps. It's free marketing to some degree, right? If you have a new service or a new thing that people aren't used to using or accustomed to or whatever else, kind of like almost Uber and Lyft, right? If knowing what Uber is helps you understand what Lyft is, and vice versa. And to some degree, before you get in a stranger's car that you meet randomly on your phone, it's nice to know there's more than one group out there doing it, right? it's like, this isn't just like this. So there's a lot of ways that competition can actually be, very collaborative, even if not intentionally collaborative.
Yeah, and I think, and I will share with you some, I will say based on experiences that I had before. When you go, for example, to a business incubator, let's say business incubators are all over the world. And you are having a soda with somebody, and maybe you are having a beer after hours. When you are sharing stuff, this is some concept that I don't recall the name, the guy who told me, but if I have an apple and you have an apple, for example, and we exchange the apples now, and I go away with one apple, and you as well. But if we share ideas, now I go home with 2 ideas, and you as well, you go home with 2 ideas. But if we go deeper and we blend those ideas, maybe with those 2 ideas, we have access to 3, 4, 5. We don't know actually how many. So basically, it's going beyond that zero sum. And let me see, Matt, we have a comment here. Is from Drew Conley Chrisman.
Hey, Drew.
If I pronounce it well. So this no zero sum game reminds me of finite and infinite games. Matt, this is for you.
And I have to look into more. I know Drew here. This is great seeing him. I need to, and then I'm familiar with Simon Sinek. I've got to learn about James Garce and finite and infinite games. I'm gonna have to find out more. I'm sure Drew's going to share more about that. But this is my homework reading for the week. Then, it's just an interesting, because zero sum is, I'm old enough where we grew up in the Cold War, and like it permeated everywhere around us. This idea that it was everything from like USA and the Soviet Union to Coke and Pepsi to everything. And now it's weird that, if I stop and listen to myself, we're kind of getting that even today, at least in the United States. It's like there's no gray area. You're either this or you're that and everything else. And it's just really destructive, right? Where and I guess that's one of the things I saw for hope in entrepreneurship, especially in the social entrepreneurship space. And I think part of that's related to what you were just describing, Nestor, is that so many entrepreneurs came out of like an incubator or accelerator where even if they were competitors, they were going through the tough times together, or they were learning, or they were, they had that shared kind of experience that helped them connect in a way. And that, that goes on to things like community and other things that I think could come out of this idea of launching your own competition or getting away from the zero sum. I'm not a mathematician, but I don't know if zero sum is the like the law of math or nature or humans, or if it's just something that we have up until this moment, and we have the power to change that equation. What that equation is, I have no idea. But this question, when you messaged me with this, Nestor, I was like, I'm really curious to see where we can keep taking.
Yeah, you have. You see, as you see, there's a lot of people talking about this zero sum, like Simon Sinek. I really like this guy, and just maybe in order just to get into the end of this conversation today, is two simple examples of actually today environment. First one, cryptocurrency. And I do remember the first time that I heard about cryptocurrency, and actually it was a Bitcoin thing. It was in 2013, and I had the option to go to Chicago to this really, really nice event. And I was looking at the Winklevoss brothers, you remember the Winklevoss twins? And they were talking about Bitcoin. Nobody was talking about Bitcoin at that time. And after some years, I discovered that the Winklevoss guys, they were investing in many different cryptocurrencies. And why? Because they need the competitors just to be able to increase the level of awareness of cryptocurrency around the world. Oh my God, we have thank you, Drew. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's a clear definition then. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the Finite games, predetermined rules, has an ending and a winner and a loser. Infinite, not predetermined rules, no ending, and no winner or loser. Okay, so business is an infinite game, but really often treated like a finite game. Yeah, we do agree with you, and that's the good thing. We need to change the way that we are looking at things and approaching stuff. It's not really bad just because it's really or might be bad in terms of how do we approach the concept. If we approach a concept in terms of, oh my God, that might be an infinite board or an infinite space, or let's remember our previous chapter, or if we approach this like there's no box at all, my God, we are changing the game. That's my final thoughts on this, Matt. What about you?
No, I'll just wrap it up on what you said. I like how we keep going back to that thinking outside of the box discussion. And this is exactly what you just said encapsulates that, right? And just, in fact, this question, we keep saying, like, how do you go beyond asking, let's get outside the box, or how do you actually do it, right? Well, launching your competition is a great example of how to actually get outside of the box. Yeah.
Okay, Matt, it was so nice to see you again in this show. And if you are watching this show, just remember just to subscribe to our YouTube channels, so basically you don't miss a chapter of our conversation with Matt. That is really nice. We have this conversation once a week on Fridays. And Fridays is live, but you can watch our YouTube channels as well. And of course, if you think this is a thing that is valuable for some of your friends, just feel free to share it. We'll be more than happy to talk with you. And if you have comments, just put those comments here, and we'll be more than happy to get to you very, very fast via the social media, of course.
Great speaking with you.
Okay, Matt. So nice to speak to you today.
Thanks.